Welcome to the All Facts Matter podcast, where we push back against corporate media propaganda with facts, evidence, and data. I'm Peter, the author of All Facts Matter. Let's begin. There is no denying that the Bureau of Labor Statistics Employment Situation Summary for May was, on the surface, a positive report. Reporting an increase of 139,000 jobs in May, with the unemployment rate holding steady at 4.2%, the May jobs report on the surface showed solid, if unremarkable, job growth. However, once again, the surface is where the good news ends. Ominously, we are seeing a return of the BLS favorite statistical methodology, Lou Costello labor math, as the different jobs gauges are not aligning with one another. At the same time, May did not see any real strengthening in goods-producing wages. April was a relatively good month for jobs, but the detail underneath show May to be quite a bit less than that, with job growth that is more illusory than real. As readers will recall from last month's jobs discussion, the hallmark of when the BLS is using the garbage methodology I call Lou Costello labor math is when the various jobs metrics do not trend along similar lines. And while this was the case in April, it was definitely not the case for May. The employment level from the household survey dropped significantly, and ADP continued to underperform the establishment survey's all employees metrics. Additionally, the BLS, unsurprisingly, had another set of large corrections to the prior 2 months' data, erasing 95,000 jobs from March and April. Despite these variances within the data, the all-employees data set from the establishment survey showed some job growth for May. And even among strictly private employers, there appears to be job growth in the all-employees metric. But this stands at odds with the household survey's employment level, which showed job loss in May. And as I noted last Friday, ADP came in well below the BLS numbers. While still showing some job growth, the trend in ADP is very definitely down, charting progressively slower job growth each month so far this year. As the various job gauges do not align, we should not be surprised to see that the all-employees data by economic sector is printing significant weaknesses, even as the headline data shows some strength in the overall jobs numbers. Once again, manufacturing lost jobs. And even ADP shows the manufacturing sector losing jobs. The mainstay for service employment, trade, transportation, and utilities, barely avoided a job loss in May. The ADP report showed that there actually was job loss in the trade sector for May. Even last month's star-performing sector, education and private healthcare, showed weaker numbers for May. For its part, ADP printed actual job loss for that sector in May. These sector-level weaknesses are another confirmation that the BLS methodologies are off, as they do not lend support to the stronger headline numbers. They are also confirmation that the jobs recession has not eased up yet. The optimism that was guardedly feasible last month has evaporated. Equally disappointing as the lack of actual job growth in key economic sectors has been the lack of pay growth for yet another month. Goods-producing wages did not change at all in real terms. And real service wages moved up only incrementally for the month. While we have not seen May's inflation numbers yet, Barring another deflation month, wages are still not likely to have fully caught up with price rises following the 2022 hyperinflation cycle. Wages are certainly close, much closer than they have been. But matching the growth in the CPI since 2021 only means that wages have at least gotten back to where they should be relative to prices. Goods producing wages are close to that point, but service wages still need to rise noticeably to fully recover. And compounding the lack of wage growth is a lack of growth in average hours per week worked. When people do not work a full 40 hours per week and wages do not rise, it is mathematically impossible for people's pay situations to improve. And certainly for the month of May, people's paychecks did not get any better. Rounding out the grim statistics in the jobs report is the reality that joblessness is still rising in this country. While the unemployment rate technically remained unchanged, the unemployment level did not. It rose for the month, continuing a trend which began in early 2023. And the situation is actually worse than that, because when we incorporate the number of people technically not in the labor force, but who want a job now, with those who are unemployed, we find that the real unemployment rate actually rose for May, and is worse now than in March, before the good month of April. As indicated by that real unemployment rate, the number of people not in the labor force surged in May. Because those not in the labor force are not factored into official employment calculations, this surge does not show up in the May unemployment rate. It still indicates rising joblessness, however. And confirming that there is rising joblessness in the United States, the employment population ratio fell sharply in May. A falling employment population ratio means the United States is not producing enough jobs to keep pace with population growth. Even if there was any jobs growth, which is debatable, it was clearly not enough. Despite what the headline numbers indicate, the detail refutes the premise that there was any significant job growth in the U.S. for May, even if the establishment survey detail was consistent. The significant variances between the establishment survey data, the household survey data, and the ADP data make reliance on the establishment survey data problematic at best. And that is the consequence of Lou Costello labor math, untrustworthy data. The credibility of the establishment survey is further challenged by the job losses shown in manufacturing and trade, transportation, and utilities, coupled with weakening job growth in education and private health care, a sector ADP indicated had job losses. These losses make job growth at the headline level even less likely. And the employment level from the household survey shows there was significant job loss for the month. And the falling employment population ratio is certainly consistent with that. At best, without speculating on the revisions to job growth that will be recorded for April and May in the June report, there was little to no actual job growth in the U.S. for May. When we consider the magnitude of the revisions that have been made just since the beginning of the year, that little to no actual job growth quickly becomes likely job loss. It is not possible to establish an improving job situation within the United States economy based on the BLS May jobs numbers. That paychecks remain weak is further argument the jobs markets are either stagnating or weakening. What is clear from the May jobs report is that the United States is still mired in the jobs recession it has endured since late 2023. Getting out of that would have required several repeats of last month's jobs report, and that we did not get for May. For Donald Trump, the continued loss of manufacturing jobs strikes at the heart of his Agenda 47 pledge to make the U.S. a manufacturing superpower. May's data moves him farther from fulfilling that promise. April's jobs report was guardedly optimistic. May's report has returned us to the usual posture of resigned pessimism. The jobs recession continues, and it continues to drag down the U.S. economy. And that concludes this presentation. I hope you found this podcast helpful and informative. Please like it and share this with your friends. Word of mouth is how I publicize my work. Please also consider making a one-time donation or becoming a paid subscriber to All Facts Matter. Your support is what keeps this work going, and I greatly appreciate all of my subscribers. Without you, this work would have no meaning. I encourage everyone to be especially generous with feedback. Leave a word or two in the comment section so that we can keep the discussion going and that we may learn from each other. Thank you all for listening, and have a nice day.